But we're going to start with the Michigan Wolverines. For the first time in school history, a 13-win season. Never before have they done that. First back-to-back Big Ten outright championships, Braylon, since 91-92. That's a long time ago. Of course, 03-04 was the last back-to-back
but
championship.
But we didn't win outright in 04.
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
We
so the last back-to-back outright Big Ten champs since 91 and 92. This thing has been fun. What a ride it's been. Braylon, you were there.
What a ride it's been. And, like you said, I was there. I was down in Indy. And just the attitude and just the moment is great. As you see, shout out to Fletch for that. This was fun. I had Phil Sweets with the Discover. That was your guys in Detroit should recognize this guy. It's Cliff Averill right there, Purdue legend. Had a fun time. But it's just fun to watch the fans. The fans waited a long time for the Michigan Wolverines to respond in kind, to be the Michigan that they represented, to be way better than the Michigan that they represented. They took a lot of shots for the last 13, 14, 15, 16, 20 years. And now here they are back on top of the mountain in a way in which they've never been on top before. The energy is there. The alums are excited. The fans are excited. And the one thing I'm learning and I'm watching is Michigan fans aren't taking it for granted. I think you saw along the way Ohio State kind of started taking it for granted, the Big Ten, being in the playoffs every year. I mean, they backed in this year, but they only have one loss. But the Michigan fans aren't taking it for granted. Hell of a season, hell of a ride, and they just keep finding ways to showcase more and more talent, more players going into the playoffs. I mean, Loveland the last 3 weeks, so excited.
You talk about the way this team is winning football games, Braylon, and they're doing it with these younger guys. It's a great mix,
yeah.
but Loveland in the end zone looks like Shannon Sharp already.
My right? God, the high point on that was amazing.
Will Johnson with 2 interceptions in the game. Both guys, true freshmen. When we talk about this,
Mullins.
The quarterback's a sophomore, the running back's a sophomore. Many guys up on the defensive line, freshmen, sophomores. I mean, it's just incredible to see the dominance in which this football program has begun to take over, especially the Big Ten Conference.
And before we get into the X and O's next segment, Maz as well as Ryan, the good thing about seeing is these guys are very excited about one another. And we'll talk about the Lions as well, because I see a lot of that same similarity in the Detroit Lions in terms of winning together, being happy together. But that's what Michigan is doing right now. The running backs are excited. You look at Donovan Edwards, he's the guy, but he's equally as excited when Mullins scores his 2 touchdowns as when he scores. You look at Cornelius Johnson is excited when Loveland scores his 2 touchdowns, or Schoonmaker. Everybody wants to win. They don't care how they get it done. Hey, you get 200. Hey, you get 150. Hey, this game I have a couple catches, but you get your 200. I'm blocking for you. We're winning on the defense. Everybody is getting involved in it. Like I always tell you, Lloyd told me, when the team wins, everybody wins, and everybody's eating right now at University of Michigan.
We talk about the dominance too, Maz, and I want to get you involved here a little bit too. This, over the last 2 years, and this does feel a little bit different from last year, I think, Braylon. I want you to weigh in. This feels different. Last year it felt like, oh, man, woo, we beat Ohio State. Michigan beat Ohio State. Are you kidding me? Haven't done that in so long. And what's this Indianapolis situation? I've never even realized that Michigan could come to Indianapolis. Yeah. Heaven forbid a college football playoff. Oh, we're just happy to be there. Let's get our teeth kicked in by the University of Georgia. That's not what this is. That's not what this year feels like.
No, it doesn't. I watched that game on Saturday night. I was so comfortable and relaxed watching that game, watching a team that really probably had a hard time getting up to play Purdue. Purdue played pretty darn good, especially their quarterback. He doesn't throw for a lot of touchdowns, but that kid, he has a good touch on the ball.
Yeah, I agree.
They have some great players. That Charlie Jones, that wide receiver, he's pro-ready already. And the way Michigan just took care of business, relaxed. You know what? We're going to get him in the second half. You know what? We're going to get him in the fourth quarter. They just kept rolling, man, and they basically they just coasted in and looked like it was like the spring game. You knew that they were just going to get that job done. They looked like they were practicing, getting ready for a bigger game ahead. I'm very proud of the way Jim Harbaugh got this team ready, the way they all play for each other. It was a pleasure to watch, and it made me happy that I've been rooting for Michigan for 50 plus years.
It made everybody excited, Tom, and you bring up a good point. But thinking about Michigan this season, the one thing that I've said early on in the season, I think it was around the Penn State game where I kind of started to pay attention to it. Penn State was after the Iowa game. Michigan knows how to win any type of game. If you look at this season, if you look at how the games have unfolded, they played many different type of games. You look at Iowa. They struggled a little bit in Iowa the first 3 quarters, really got it going in the third and in the fourth quarter. You look at the Penn State game. They dominated on defense in the first half, but it took them to the second half to get some points going. 1, they're a second half team. 2, look at the Ohio State game. Came out, struggled a little bit in the first quarter. Second quarter, they go back and forth. Ohio State starts to look like they're the team. Michigan responds in kind, goes down only 1 at the half, and then you come out and you just blow the doors off Ohio State. Notice it keeps being a second half team. You look at the Illinois game, struggled in that game all the way to the end, but guess what? They got the bottom line, which was the win, Ryan Ermanni. And then you go into the Big Ten championship game after the Ohio State game and the way you played in that one. You haven't played against Purdue in 3 years. Purdue is a guy, a Coach Brom's a team. They do a lot of trick plays. They have a lot of specialized plays. When you haven't played them in a very long time, it's like playing the Pac-12 team for the first time. So they're going to make some plays here and there. But ultimately, they stayed in there. They stayed the course. They were on point, and they made the plays when it counted, whether it was Will Johnson both times in the red zone. They got the stops that you needed, and guys made plays. So Michigan can win any type of game at this current moment.
Will Johnson could have been MVP.
He could have been, absolutely.
100%.
I want to point out that is something that you've been kind of pitching and telling people all year long about, Michigan can beat you running the ball. Michigan can beat you throwing the ball. Michigan can beat you with the dink and dunk. They can beat you deep. They can
beat you ugly. They can beat you big.
They could win a game 52-40, and they could win it 19-17.
100%.
And that's what they're doing. Maz, you had mentioned something. It had to be hard, and Braylon, you'd be able to speak to this more than anybody. It had to be hard, and I know it's a Big Ten championship game, and you get up for it and everything like that. But as somebody who is an alum watching the game, excited to watch the game, I watched that game. I don't want to say emotionally dead, but I watched the game almost as if it was an afterthought that they were going to win. It was with very little emotion that I was watching the game, especially early. As a player, I can only imagine how hard it was to get up for a game like that after leaving everything you had on the field in Columbus, winning there. Because what does Nick Saban say? You can really only get up for 2 games. You can really only get up to play 2 games in any particular year. And now they're going out into the postseason. I'm sure it's different. But in a regular season, 2 games. So it took a while for them to get going again, and that was to be expected, I think.
They started off fire. I mean, if you look at the first drive, they go down there, score a touchdown on the opening drive, then they come back. I take that back. They dominated Purdue. Like, if you watch the first series with Purdue, they dominate Purdue, make Purdue go 3 and out, then they come back and they score a touchdown. It looks like it's going to be a rout. But one thing Coach Brom is, he knows how to spread you out. He knows how to use Mockabee. Mockabee is a hell of a running back, by the way. You talk about Charlie Jones, Maz. Mockabee is a hell of a running back, by the way. By the way, that fake flea flicker was one of the – if Michigan does not steal that, they are morons.
Braylon?
They are morons. That play was so nice. Like, I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh, man, they're about to try – is he going to – that was one of the smoothest plays that I have ever seen.
I've never seen it before. In fact,
I saw Boise State ran against Oklahoma in that random 2008.
That was a Statue of Liberty game.
They ran 3 trick plays.
Wow.
But to your point, it was amazing watching that. So they're one of those type teams. They execute, very well in moments, big game moments to execute well. But you know what? When you look at the ring, because I hung out with some of the guys after the game. I won't say any names of who I hung out with. Hung out with some of the guys after the games. You see the energy. You saw the ring from last year. They didn't win it all last year, but they won the Big Ten championship ring. That Big Ten championship ring, the biggest ring I've ever seen in my life. Like, how can you, if you're a guy on a team and you weren't there last year, how could you not want one of those rings? How could you not want to play against TCU and then have a chance to play against Ohio State? And don't wait, I got something in this show for Ohio State. But how could you not want a chance to play in a moment like that? So even though for us, we're looking at, and Maz said it, and Maz and Brandy talked about it, hey, don't overlook it. 1 game at a time, for sure. So we are, as fans, overlooking Purdue. But that's not what Michigan's doing. Michigan is focusing on every step at a time, individual of that step. So they were ready and they got up.
I will say this too. Kudos to Jim Harbaugh. We've been trying to give him his flowers all throughout the last part of the season, specifically. The run that he's got Michigan on right now is
never been seen before.
Seriously, and Jamie Morris had mentioned it. Braylon, you were talking about it earlier in the season when he moved Ron Bellamy to wide receiver coach. You just look at the staff.
Yeah.
Look at the staff. I mean, he changed. He got younger in that staff. Younger coaches that relate to these players. He's having fun again. You talked about the open door policy he has. This is the program that I think all of us anticipated, and then some, when Jim Harbaugh was hired here in 2015.
This is what it looks like. This is Jim Harbaugh that we saw coming out of San Diego, winning in San Diego, going to the Stanford, getting that win over Pete Carroll and USC, turning that program around, going to the 49ers in 2011, the team which I was part of, turning that franchise around and getting to the Super Bowl in his third season with the 49ers, coming to Michigan, getting the wins early, getting 10 wins early, taking his time, figuring out how to do it. Sometimes you got to learn how to win. Sometimes you got to learn how to coach. Sometimes you have to rethink your inks, and that's what he's done this year in spite of everything that happened in the offseason. He's come back and had a masterful season, and the players respond to him so well. You can just see the elation in the players. They love playing for Jim Harbaugh and this coaching staff.
So what now?